Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. And we're here today with special guest, Sally Lee Stewart, who's here to share with us her new novel, The Angle of Vanishing Stability. So are you looking for a book you won't want to put down? Well, today's guest is here to share with us just that. So Sally Lee Stewart is a fourth-generation Californian and elementary educational specialist. She lives on a 10-acre farm on the coastal hills of Northern California and sails on the San Francisco Bay. So welcome to the show, Sally Lee Stewart.
Thank you, Marianne. I'm honored to be here.
Well, my goodness, what a joy it is to have you here to talk about this book. So what inspired you to write this?
I was excited about the archetype of the maiden, the flower child who wants to break things open. She seeks connection and intimacy, and she doesn't really care what other people think. She doesn't take herself so seriously. And yet, without a strong, healthy bond to a father, this maiden will face some tough consequences for her spirit of exploration. It might be more of the process, the answer to what was the process, but I feel like it might sound like a misanthrope, but I was very inspired, of course, by many of my favorite writers over the years, but specifically a real moment was being underwater in Hawaii and hearing some humpback whales singing to one another. I had just censored myself for a long time, and hearing them was so powerful. And I understand they listen very carefully to one another, and then they repeat back the same story, but they embellish it. And I just thought, I have to write a story. This is so inspiring.
Well, what a remarkable thing to experience. I mean, I can just envision that being there with you, hearing that, even though I've never gone through that experience personally. How did that transform you?
I felt that as I said, I'd been censoring myself for a long time, and they were so uncensored, and I perceived them as being so ancient and so wise, and the ultimate stewards of the planet. And I think they were courting, so I was feeling like I wasn't so good at that part of life. But there was just so much grace and beauty in what I heard, and I felt encouraged that everyone has a song, everyone has a story. Up on land, it felt like there was a lot of shame and masks, and I wanted to follow the example of the humpback whale that was doing this beautiful singing and dancing, in the water. So it was permission from a different life form to sing my song. And I know whale song inspires a lot of people. It's very powerful. But for me, that was the first time I'd heard it actually underwater, not a recording.
My goodness, what a powerful experience. And I know your book, let's touch on the title, The Angle of Vanishing Stability. So what is that? And how does that relate as a metaphor to your book?
Well, it's a nautical term. It's a mathematical formula for the angle that a specific boat would capsize. And I feel like people go upside down too, and whole families go upside down, and perhaps whole nations go upside down. But we struggle to locate ourselves and are unable to move forward or see where we are going for a time. I know the expression "on your head," means at your own expense, but in Middle English it meant a curse or a blessing. So yeah, I think it's a powerful metaphor. It's obviously a great hardship, or it could be fun. Kids on a small dinghy might capsize just to cool off in the water, or it could be a great tragedy. Capsizing and going, flipping in and of itself is a mechanical thing, but I guess the metaphor was more for when structure doesn't function. But hopefully there's a kind of awakening out of that event that allows for the changes that are necessary for that family or that structure to go on, to heal.
So can you share with us a little bit about the story?
The story is of a young woman. It's a sweeping coming of age tale. It goes from early childhood to early motherhood. And the protagonist, Thea, she is that maiden who's wanting to explore, and in her exploration, I believe she's really trying to heal the relationship with her father, which is very um, unsatisfactory due to his demons. He also has great strengths, and those are sort of out of reach for both of them. He doesn't know how to share them. Well, he does share them some, but it's not really a successful exchange between a parent and a child. And so the protagonist of the story rebels and tries to find her own path that's sort of not the direction of the family, um, living on the coast and the sailing. And she goes to the mountains and she finds her own community, and she goes to the country to go to boarding school, and she's soothed and nourished there. She realizes at that point that her father is not well. And then she eventually moves to New York, and she's surrounded by homeless people in a wide diversity of cultures, which helps her see how her privilege, her privilege and the greater hardships that others endure. In New York, she enters the therapeutic process and identifies herself increasingly as she gets in touch with her feelings. And later in the story, she goes to Nicaragua and she becomes politicized. So really, this is a young person who's very lost. However, she is finding herself along the way.
That kind of dovetails nicely with my next question, because I
Oh,
mean, my goodness, this journey spans several decades and locations. So how do
yeah.
these settings contribute to Thea's journey of self-discovery?
She's a bit like the blind optimist. She keeps trying. She grows really in each different environment. However, there's a very deep wound that isn't resolved. It's not healing. So she's gathering tools and insights in these different places, and she's certainly becoming a woman and learning about that part of herself. However, her her relationships, which are so important to her, are they're always in some way a reflection of what was happening, in her childhood. There's a sort of dance between her rebellion and also becoming who she really is. So maybe as the story goes on, there's less rebellion and there's more just celebrating who she is.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Sally Lee Stewart in regards to her new novel, The Angle of Vanishing Stability. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
Are you an author, speaker, or expert who is looking for more publicity? Visit radioguestlist.com and sign up for free interview requests from shows looking for guests. Radio Guest List is the #1 free booking resource for radio, podcasts, and TV talk shows who are looking for experts like you right now. Visit radioguestlist.com and sign up today to get the visibility you deserve.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special. When you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Welcome back to Moments with Mary Ann. We're here today with special guest, Sally Lee Stewart, who's here sharing with us her new novel, The Angle of Vanishing Stability. One of the things I found interesting is Thea's father was such a talented sailor, but then how very human, also a deeply flawed alcoholic. So was it difficult to write this balance of these contrasting aspects of his character?
It was extremely difficult. And I really love this character. I have seen so many different depictions of alcoholic characters in fiction. They're really individuals, and I had yet to find this one. So that was also an inspiration. It's like, I want to write this character because I haven't found this character in other stories. And like anyone, I mean, we all have deficits. Everybody has something they're not very good at or something that they suffer with. But that doesn't define a person. And so I tried to ground his character in his love of water and boats and his friends and his love of his family. He did love his family. It was just a very complicated, unstable love and problematic. But I feel actually he was very passionate, if not alienated. There's a lot of alienation in the family in this story. I wanted to ground his character in the physical and his love of water and boats, and hope that made the intoxicated scenes less cliche. This character is much more than his drunkenness. He's an individual with a wound that he seeks to heal. And he's very proper when he's sober, and he's, alternately entertaining and frightening when intoxicated. It was very hard. I don't think I could have done it when I was younger.
It seems that you interwove those parts so very well to paint a very human picture of your father, because life is messy. We have messy parts in our story. The depiction of your father was very honest and at times very raw, but I feel that people could really relate.
Thank you. Thank you.
So is forgiveness a theme in this book?
I think the act of writing the book itself was an act of forgiveness. And this is the first of 3 books, so there will be a second and a third. And it's really the third where the forgiveness is so pronounced. But there is forgiveness in this book by all means. In The Angle of Vanishing Stability, Thea comes to understand that part of life is admitting mistakes and saying we're sorry for our unconscious behavior. And that's not something you can do in an alcoholic family. So that's her work through therapy and just growing up. And her path takes her to explore her inner world. And by exploring her inner world, she gains the capacity to hold others in their pain. So she has a long way to go, though, when the book ends. Yeah, forgiveness it's such a big undertaking, and the world is so polarized, evident that it's not as slick as like a formula, a screenplay or something where there's just like this resolution, overnight. Real change takes time, and good things take time. Maybe for some people, they're so fortunate that it doesn't. But this trilogy will be the story of forgiveness at a time when there is patriarchy and there's a lot of strife between men and women. And I think it's a big deal to, for the daughter to forgive the father. There's a lot of exciting healing in that, in my opinion.
Well, it's a journey I think many of us take, and I really liked how you presented that in this book. It made it so I think, people of all ages can understand and maybe start thinking about compassion and forgiveness in their journey.
No, I hope so. And I do not suggest that it's easy, but it's so worthwhile because it's so freeing. Takes a lot of energy to nurse a grudge. I
Yeah, it
feel like
does.
the universe gets behind us, as we forgive ourselves, as we forgive others.
So, how do you think Thea's understanding of her father changed over the years?
He is really larger than life and kind of godlike in the beginning, and then the illusion perpetuated, well, by the culture and also very much by her mother, falls apart as his fragility becomes impossible to mask, and that's heartbreaking. And yet it allows for a real connection between the two of them.
The ocean is such a powerful symbol in this novel. How does Thea's relationship with the ocean evolve over time?
Well, as a child, she was a guest on her father's boat, and the water that covers 2/3 of the earth. It feels like the domain of men to her. This is all unspoken, but it's just very powerful. And she goes to the mountains, rebels through her love affairs with men, and she disregards the world of sailing as something conservative and elitist that she doesn't want to be involved in. And however, her love of the wild, it extends across the oceans, and she feels the water calling her without having the agency to access it or the perception. Like there's such a big block between her and her father that while their strongest connection is their love of the wild, their love of water, wind, sailing, she's shut off. Like that door to her own soul is shut. And I tried to show like how it was sort of like almost like the ocean was seeping in through the cracks of the door, just calling her forward. But, they were in this situation. He wanted to protect her, and this was something he did with the guys. And there are a lot of sailing dads out there who are really empowering their daughters to sail. I got to say, some of the best women sailors on the planet right now. We're very included in the process, but it's just not every parent's calling to teach the thing to their child that they love themselves. And there was the gender thing too, for sure, which it still exists in sailing. Yeah, she has this ineluctable pull to the ocean, and it's just barely there in this first book, but it will get stronger in the following books.
What are some of the other themes in this book?
Well, we spoke about the maiden. Well, then there's sexism, nature, and art. Art as a template, really, for the instability, hopefully having a balancing effect. And then there's the paradox of being the child of a sick parent. Children need to be safe getting mad at their parents. And then if you have a sick parent, you're kind of walking on eggshells. So it's a bit of a paradox.
What would you like readers and our listeners to take away from your book?
I would love for readers to feel they have permission to write, to draw, to dance, get into nature, get in a room with another person, to be close. There is an absence of electronics in this book because of the era it's set in. I hope that's also an invitation to readers. I'd like them most of all to consider just being who they are and saying they're sorry if they need to say they're sorry, and to feel the pain that might be there that's keeping them from forgiving somebody. Just feel it all the way and then let it go. Something that happened in the past. Got to ask yourself, why am I allowing it to hold me here in the present where so much is possible?
I think that's such a wise lesson, definitely a wise lesson. Where can our readers and listeners connect with you and learn more about your book and how to be part of your community?
Thanks for asking. You can go to your local bookstore, and if they don't have it, you can have them order it through Ingram Sparks. It's online, available through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and bookshop.com. I have a author website, sallyleestewartauthor.com, and I am on Instagram and Facebook.
Well, Sally, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you, Marianne. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Sally. It has been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new novel, The Angle of Vanishing Stability. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Mary Ann, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Mary Ann is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Mary Ann will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmaryann.com for more information.